You actually are a specialist in Russia's policy toward the Middle East. Is
Yes,
that's
right.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Why can't Russia just like steamroll Ukraine? They're so much more powerful. They have way more weapons.
Well, Ukrainians have weapons too.
True.
And Ukrainians are fighting for their life. They have a much bigger reason.
Yeah.
They have a will to fight. Russians don't really know what they're fighting
They're
for.
just like, whatever. Do the Russian people like really care about this?
Russian people don't really know, I think.
And it's probably also quite helpful to them to not have an opinion as well.
Anna Borshchevskaya is the Harold Grinspoon Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute, where she focuses on Russia's evolving policy toward the Middle East, including its expanding defense ties and regional influence. She also co-authored recent pieces with our returning guest, Matt Tavares, on Russia's rebound in the Middle East defense space.
Russia's entire economy is now geared towards war at the expense of other industries. It's almost like they cannot afford peace.
If the Russian defense industry continues to grow like it is growing, that Russian defense industry is not going away.
The other issue with Russia is that I think... And...
Wow, Putin heard you say that. You're canceled now in Russia. That's the... We're here with Anna Borshchevskaya.
Anna.
Anna,
I don't get that a lot.
Run it back.
whatever. No. That's a great way to start. All right, Anna. It's like Anna Karenina or whatever.
Yes, kind of like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, and you're here with my repeat guest, second repeat guest of the pod.
Really?
Dhruva, and then you. So
I'm honored.
Matt Tavares. Tavares?
Tavares.
Got that one right.
There you go.
Boom. Crushed it. See, I did prep, Jack. All right. Well, welcome. Actually, this is really cool we don't get that many think tank people on the podcast, and I love that when people get paid to think. Yeah, it's like pretty sick.
My parents still don't understand what I do.
You're like, Mom, Dad, I'm paid for my thoughts. The thoughts. And you actually are a specialist in Russia's policy toward the Middle East.
Yes,
Is that
that's
right? Okay.
Yes.
That's something I know nothing about, so this is going to be really good. So you can educate us today. Jack probably knows nothing either. But before we get into that, who's like your favorite Russian novelist? Are you an existentialist? Are you like one of those old school Russian novelist people?
No, that's interesting. Nobody has ever asked me that. Bulgakov.
Okay. I don't even know what that one is. Is that a famous one?
It's a pretty famous one.
That makes me look
Mikhail
really...
Bulgakov. Have you heard of Master and Margarita?
Oh, yeah. Okay. It makes me look pretty ignorant that I didn't know it off the top of my head. But that's cool. I had the guests like that. Or not the guests, the listeners. So that's cool. And Matt, what about you? Are you an expert on Russia, Middle East policy?
Well, I sort of got into this profession by being focused on the Middle East and having real world experience in the Middle East. And I think I realized when I got on the Russia desk at the Pentagon, and I was focused almost exclusively on Russia's relationship to the Middle East and North Africa, that there weren't a lot of people that were looking at the issue like I was in D.C. You know, I looked at the Joint Staff. There was the Syria desk, and then there was the Russia desk, and there was I'm not aware of any group of people that was sort of like, well, who is looking at Russia's relationship with Syria? Who is looking at Russia's relationship with the Gulf states and with Egypt? And I felt somewhat lonely from a policy perspective, so I started to Google people in Washington D.C. that were focused on this issue set the way that I was.
Yeah. Okay, that's how you guys met, or?
Yeah, she's well known in the policy space here, and she's been publishing for years and years. And I did the thing that I love doing from time to time, which is calling a policy expert and asking them to talk about the thing that they most like to talk about.
Nice.
And in Washington D.C. is a wonderful place. I was on the New Zealand desk, and I had some questions about New Zealand's non-nuclear policy.
Yeah.
And I found like the guy doing all of the publishing on New Zealand's done. And when the thing that I've always noticed is when you call these people and you're like, hey, can you talk to me a little? I'm at the Pentagon doing this. They're like, oh, yes, yeah. And they'll talk to you for hours and hours and hours and get into the nitty gritty. And I think that's how Anna and I kind of started off, like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And every now and then, in policy world, the Pentagon, you're constantly thinking of new ideas and new policy applications. And you're trying to generate, recommendations fairly regularly. And there's a creative aspect to it, but sometimes it's also nice to look at what's been done, what thinking's been done. And so Anna and I were constantly bouncing ideas off of one another.
I think it's Anna.
It's fine.
You messed up.
He did not mess up.
This person who I just met moments before walking into the podcast.
Exactly.
No.
All right, so Anna, to you then, are you? So talk a little about your work, just like the high level for the listeners. Like it's something that probably none of us really know that much about. So maybe just like give us like kind of your high level take of what you do.
Yeah, so I'm an expert on Russia's Middle East policy, which really means you have to know both Russia and the Middle East in order to understand what Russia is doing in the region. I focused over the years on all aspects of what Russia does in the region: political, military, economic. The primary focus, though, of my work I would say, has been more on the Levant, on Russia and Syria. My book was on the Russian intervention in Syria. But I can talk about anything whether it's Russia's.
Can we pull up honestly the cover of the book?
Yeah.
Let's just take a look. I need to see how you styled it. The art.
Well, there's a big photo of Putin.
There's a big photo of Putin on the
Yeah.
Putin's war in
Syria.
Syria. His war in Russia. All right, Jack. Oh, here we go.
No, that was the early 2000s.
Right.
That's when he did that.
Oh, this looks well done. Okay. There we go. All right, awesome. And this was published when?
This was published shortly before Russia invaded Ukraine, so at the
2021 or something?
at the end of 2021.
Okay. Nice. And we should get a copy. You didn't bring us a copy?
I did not bring you a
Wow.
copy. Yeah.
Wow. That's a bad guess.
Did you bring us a DJI drone?
You can have one. No, actually, I didn't. Actually, don't take that.
I was hoping you'd buy the
Yeah.
book.
Okay. Oh, no, we'll buy the book. We'll support. Of course. Of course. Okay. So this book comes out. You were working on this for probably a while, I'm sure.
Yes. My interest in this topic actually began in 2008 when I lived in Syria for 3 months. I was finishing my master's degree at the time. And when I arrived to Syria, it felt very Soviet to me. Everything about that country reminded me of my childhood. And that's really, I think, what was probably the origin of that book.
Yeah.
You know, people ask you oftentimes, how long did it take you to write a book? It's actually a harder question to answer because the actual writing might not take so long, but a lot of the thinking and experiences that take place before that is really where an idea can originate.
What's like the most beautiful place to hang out in Syria? Like, where's like the vacation spot?
Well, you know, Syria is destroyed right now.
Well, I mean, is there like a lake, like a private lake or some like lagoon? I don't know. I don't know anything about Syria. Like, what's the geography like at all?
I thought Damascus was nice. Aleppo and Malula, the Aramaic city of Malula, was quite interesting. It was completely destroyed though by the Islamic State.
My geography is a little hazy. Like, can we pull up the map? Just like I need to get a lay of the land. You guys obviously like know all this, but sorry for rehashing. I just so I can be a little I need to see who borders it and everything.
There was a time when I
here
could
we
close
go.
my eyes and sort of sketch out all the major road networks within Syria and all the major towns along the border and things like that.
You know, there's a lot of, what was that one politician that didn't know what Aleppo was or something? What was that?
Yeah, there was a famous question, what is Aleppo?
It was
somebody running for president.
Libertarian candidate.
Right. Yes. It was at the time of the bombing of, when Assad, with the help of the Russians, was bombing Aleppo.
I feel like he was wrongly hit on that because I bet you a lot of people didn't know what Aleppo was.
But if you're running for president, that's something you should know if it's in the news.
Well, yeah, that's pretty fair. I mean, touche. Okay, so right here, so where the borders, it borders with Lebanon. What are the other borders? Go out.
Israel,
What are the other ones?
Turkey,
Jordan, I guess.
Jordan,
Iraq.
Iraq. I mean, it's bordered with a lot of places.
Well, that's what makes Syria so strategically important. It's at the crossroads of the region.
Yeah. And what's that the body of water in the north there?
The Eastern Mediterranean.
Oh, this Lake Assad.
Oh, I was thinking about the
These. Yeah. So that's like a lake.
Well, for the listeners, the Eastern Mediterranean is probably the more important.
Okay, is it? Why?
Because it's strategically important for both for Europe and the Middle East.
And so they have access to that. Oh, right. I guess right up through there. Like this is like they're right there, right?
It's also important to understand, I think, for folks that are looking from a sort of map perspective at Syria and Iraq, that the boundaries of the lakes drawn on that map are like a maximalist take.
Yeah.
At varying points in the year, there's almost no water in those lakes.
Oh, really?
Or the lake itself is much, much smaller.
Oh, wow.
And this is the sort of proverbial breadbasket of humanity. The Tigris and the Euphrates. And there's wide variance in how the water, as it flows, is controlled by the various governments that have these rivers flowing through them. And so,
I like to always start with the geography because it's just like kind of helpful to frame like, okay, why do they even care about this place? Is it geographically significant, right? Or no?
are you talking about the Russians?
Like, why do Russians care? Yeah.
Well, so I think that's actually a really great question. Why do they care
Because it seems
about
like it
Syria
kind of
so
sucks.
much?
I mean, I don't know.
So I think, well, it does have resources, although Russia has many of the same resources that Syria does, but in spades. For Russia, this is my view, and of course, you're welcome to comment. I'd love to hear it. It provides a key. Well, it had provided this first during the Soviet era, during the regime of Assad's father, a key, gateway for Russia to move manpower, material, equipment into the Middle East, and it was a great sort of stopover point for all of the things that they wanted to ship farther south into, sub-Saharan Africa, Northern Africa.
Yeah.
And it was a relationship that allowed them to play many different smaller games within the region. So, Syria is important in the sense that you can then use Syria to influence Israel. You can use Syria to influence Iraq. You can use Syria to influence Turkey. Like, we forget that the Syrians, up until the early aughts, had forces inside of Lebanon.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
From a peacekeeping perspective.
I didn't know
that. Yeah, that's what they were there for, was to keep the peace. It was an outcome of...
it seems that they were doing a good job keeping the peace.
Debatable.
Okay.
Lebanon is a country with many problems. I'm sure that many Lebanese would themselves admit this.
Well, let me ask you. So, like, so Russia's pretty far from Syria. How do they support? Like, do they send supplies through Turkey?
Yes.
So Turkey's like in NATO, though.
They both send supplies via ground through Turkey. They send supplies from a variety of ships that are headquartered in the Black Sea. So they head them out through the straits. There's a series of waypoints along the way that they can call at to resupply those ships doing the transfers. And then, of course, there's airlines and communications as well.
Can I just add something also
please.
why the Russians would care so much about the Eastern Mediterranean? So the Russian state historically wanted to have a military outpost specifically in that region.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when Russia had gone into Syria in 2015, there was a lot of hasty commentary that people were trying to understand why was Russia doing this. And I remember reading a lot of comments saying, well, this is really unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this. But actually, it has happened before. In fact, Katherine the Great, when she fought one of the many Russian imperial wars with the Ottoman Empire, had briefly established control in essentially what is now Beirut, but what's all part of that same region. And Russian military that was stationed there created quite detailed maps. Which suggested long-term intent to stay. So they couldn't hold that position, but that's not because they didn't want to. And that's because if you think about to your question of geography is a very important question. Russia is a flat country. Russia developed as a flat land, and flat land is hard to defend. It's not the only reason why Russia expanded, in my view, but it was an important contributing factor. And one of the things that the Russian state had understood is in order to be a great power, they needed access to strategically vital waterways. One of them was the Eastern Mediterranean, along with the Black Sea and the Caspian that you see up there.
Okay. That makes sense. So, got it. And so, like this, and we're okay with them sending supplies through Turkey? Like, isn't Turkey supposed to be like a NATO country?
Yes, but, Erdogan has a very interesting and stovepipe relationship with Putin, and it's born, I think, first of need. The Turkish government and Turkey itself needs access to the Russian domestic marketplace.
I see. Okay.
It's particularly for agricultural goods. There's a tremendous amount of tourism that's in return. So Russians like to vacation on the Eastern Mediterranean in many places in Turkey, although that's not a large part of the economy. It's a significant sort of culture exchange that occurs. There are a number of different reasons, but also Putin needs Erdogan. Why does he need Erdogan? Well, Erdogan is in many ways an influencer in Syria. He's a huge influencer in the Eastern Mediterranean. And of course, the Montreux Doctrine, is that what it is? The convention, yes, there we go. The Montreux Convention gives Turkey an outsized role in controlling the Straits.
Okay, cool. So we gotta go back 1 second to Katherine the Great, because you mentioned Katherine. I can't let that go. What year was that? Can we pull up Katherine the Great? Was she hot? Or
I mean, I'd leave that for your judgment.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely, babe, total babe. What year is this?
It was somewhere in the, I don't remember.
First of all, wait, hold on. Go back up to the. She's a empress. That's badass. Is there any empresses anymore? She was the Empress of Russia.
She was.
Yeah.
She was also technically Prussian, but
Prussian. Yeah. So wait. So she. What was her claim to fame then? It was what you said, right?
There were many.
There were
claims to
many.
fame.
She had many claims. My point simply was that Russia has a historic interest in the Eastern Mediterranean. That it didn't just start with Putin.
You remind me of the Tucker Putin interview where Putin goes off in a historical lesson about why he deserves everything.
Of course.
That's very Russian of you to be like, let me just explain. Let me go back to the cosmos forming. That's a big.
I think that touches upon Putin's worldview and his view of Russia's influence and what it should be versus what it is now.
Yeah. Well,
and many of the moves that he's made are to advance this sort of, his sense of Russian prestige.
Yeah, and they want to. Yeah, he feels like they should have a bigger presence on the
Absolutely,
world stage.
and more sway. And I think his kind of personal role in Russia's foreign policy and the way that he facilitates deals, the personal diplomatic efforts that he's promoted are all sort of within this sort of view that he should be the one convening. He should be the one making things happen. He should be the one signing deals.
Should he be?
No.
Okay. All right. Check. I don't know, man.
I mean, could Russia as a state survive a very character-based leader, imperialist leader? I think they could survive it. Here's the thing, though. I would expect that any sort of evidence of Russian leadership fragility is going to be very, very hard for us in the United States and in the West to forecast or predict.
Yeah.
The track record is not good on predicting, sort of
like what they're going to do.
Russian leadership downfall. I don't know. I'm thinking back to the military push.
What's their? I was going to say,
how much warning did we have that was going to occur? Probably very little.
Yeah, what's their decision-making framework now? Is it just like Putin deciding stuff, or do they have an inner circle that they do? How do they make decisions?
They
in
do.
Russia?
So Putin. Sorry,
No,
you go right ahead.
Either one's fine.
It's a very small circle of essentially former KGB officers.
Oh, okay.
It's actually completely different from the Soviet Union, for example, where there was a Politburo and there was actually a much bigger group of people making decisions.
So is it better off under the Soviet Union then, or is it better off now, for the citizens?
For the citizens.
Yeah, what would they say, the people of Russia?
I think the people of Russia would say that Russia is better now because an average standard of living is still better now, even with the war. They're not allowed to say it's war, by the way. You can go to jail for saying.
What is it? Conflict or?
Small military
special military operation.
Special military operation, yeah.
Well, I think with Russia, one of the things that I think is very interesting, so I also studied Latin America, and we find this similar sort of domestic view within Cuba, which is that there's this cohorting of political opinion based on age.
Okay.
If you were an adult and you lived through the sort of late 80s, early 90s and the famine and the societal upheaval that, perestroika helped to usher in, you, and of course, Yeltsin is perceived in many ways as an embarrassment. You are likely going to be quite pro-Putin.
Oh.
If you do not remember those times, if you were born later, you don't really understand exactly, what the fuss is all about and why Putin should be in power.
Yeah.
The same thing is the case in Cuba. If you remember the poverty of the pre-Castro era, and you sort of grew up in that, and your parents were illiterate, you're much more inclined to be pro-Castro, or you were, and pro-communist than perhaps the younger generations are today.
That makes sense.
The 1990s were a very chaotic time in Russia. And it was a time when there was a lot of hope that Russia would turn into a liberal Western-style democracy. And Russia, in my view at least, couldn't fully. There were many reasons why, but what an average Russian thinks about that time is a time of chaos.
Yeah.
And they never actually got to experience what a real democracy is. And so many Russians at the time said, if this is what democracy is, we don't want it. But in fact, that transition simply never happened. And it's in that decade that more anti-Western individuals took control of the Russian government, took power within the Russian government. And they were the only ones who were able to provide a real vision for Russia, a real sense of self. Russia struggled deeply with its identity. They didn't know who they were. And the liberals couldn't articulate that vision. The anti-Westerners could, and they took over.
Interesting. Yeah, I had a very surreal experience in Moscow. I went with a black guy and a gay guy, and it was, I couldn't tell who they hated more, honestly. It was really, well, they couldn't tell that he was gay by looking at him.
What year was this?
It's 2009 or 2010 or 11, something like that.
Okay.
And the black guy got the most looks. Like, there was like almost no black people there. It's like a very xenophobic culture, I think, or something. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, the idea of the sort of European Russian as the face of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually quite, from a statistical perspective, is it not the minority? I would think that, Asiatic Russians would be the majority. It's been years since I looked at this.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't have an answer to that question. But Russia always struggled with its identity in terms of where it belonged in Europe or Asia. So, a lot of people think of Russia as a European country, but in my view, that's halfway true.
It's halfway true. Well, like St. Petersburg's more European than Moscow.
It's
probably,
the
right?
most, I would say, it's the most European city.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to go there because we were like stuck in Moscow. It was like January. It was like snowing, and I couldn't.
Now it's probably not a good time to go.
Well, I don't think we can go anymore. I don't know if we'll be able to go again.
I think it would be quite dangerous for you to go.
Yeah, they called me like a loud American. They were like loud, like they could just hear us from everywhere.
Might be a fair.
And I had like we were like wearing colors. Like I had like a blue jacket on, I remember, and they were like, "Oh yeah, these are Americans wear like these colors." And they all were like black, basically. Like you guys, actually, they're all just wearing that. Basically, you actually were dressed like a Russian.
Am I?
Yeah, black.
I remember.
All black.
So I was a young kid. My mother was involved in a kind of like a civil society group that did international exchanges. We lived in Charlotte. This was like late 80s, early 90s. And the wall was coming down. The wall had probably fallen by this point. And essentially they organized a cultural exchange with a lot of Eastern Bloc countries. And I remember as a child seeing them sort of at like the main sort of headquarters for this, civil society organization. And they did home visits. They visited people's homes, had dinner. And the thing that I most picked up on when I was a small child was just the difference in their dress and how it seemed like they were like, they were stuck like 5 years ago in terms of their dress. And like they had this, there's something I always associate with like the Soviet Union, which is like the fake denim.
Yeah.
Where it's not real denim, but it's like washed to look like denim.
Okay.
But in reality, it's like a cheap khaki.
Why do they have?
Well, because it was because American jeans were some of the coolest things you could have. Because if you lived in the Soviet Union, I mean, certainly by the time I was born in the 1980s, there was a lot more access and freedom. People weren't as afraid to criticize the system, and people knew that the West was better, that the West was able to deliver a quality of life that the Soviet government.
Wait, people like citizens, people knew that.
People knew that.
Well,
Certainly, my circle did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a well-known story about Yeltsin visiting the United States, and I think part of that visit they took him to a grocery store. I think this was in Texas.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he walks in and he sees all this food in the aisles, and he sees all these people sort of walking around, and these are not plants. These aren't just normal Americans on their daily chore list, working down through their chores, and he's immediately skeptical of this. He's like, "This is a show. They are putting on a show for me." So when he traveled to, I think, Miami, at the end of that trip, he called an audible on his schedule. He said, "Okay, now take me to a grocery store." Because if it's a show, right, they can't do it twice, and they can't do it with no notice. So they walk him into a grocery store in Miami, and it's the same thing. And he realizes, okay,
oh shit,
there's some ways in which communism is falling short here. and the United States is sort of casually able to do, something that's really beguiling.
So did he come
Communist
back
central
and try to
planning
make
sort
some
of
changes or
economy.
something? Did he learn from that and try to do something about it, or?
Well, I think not long after that, he brought in some of the Chicago boys, and they did shock therapy. So
Yes.
I don't know if that was necessarily the right policy answer, but it was this. I think it was changing his mind about capitalist versus communist economic systems.
All right. Well, so I know you're an expert on Syria, but let's talk about Ukraine for a moment. So why can't Russia just like steamroll Ukraine? Like what the hell are they doing? Just take them out.
Oh, why can't they take Ukraine?
Why would they just steamroll them? Yeah, they're so much more powerful. They have way more weapons.
Well, Ukrainians have weapons too,
True.
and Ukrainians are fighting for their life. They have a much bigger reason.
Yeah.
They have a will to fight. Russians don't really know what they're fighting
They're
for.
just like whatever. They don't. Do the Russian people like really care about this? Like the same way Putin does? Like, what's the sentiment?
The Russian people don't really know. I think on average. I mean, I think it's a much harder question to answer.
Yeah.
But I think an average Russian has no idea what's really happening in Ukraine.
And it's probably also quite helpful to them to not have an opinion as well.
Oh,
Well,
That
you remember
makes sense.
because again, I mean, I think so. If you think back to what happened in Crimea, a lot of Russians supported Crimea because it was quick and easy. Putin really got a very serious boost in his approval ratings, but that's because it didn't cost the Russians anything. You're not quite seeing the same level of enthusiasm. But you are seeing a degree of support for their country, and also what the Russian government is very good at is convincing their population that the West is out to get them. And in fact, seeing casualties, some might think would inspire Russian people to dislike their government, but actually the opposite happens. It creates more antagonism towards the West.
Oh, interesting. So what do you think?
The other side of that
go ahead.
discussion is also the tactics and the capabilities of both of the belligerents in the war.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, I think we're seeing, in contrast to years past, sort of the cumulative military technologies being applied in the field, of which the drone is one of the major one, is advantaging the defense on both sides of the battlefield. And so for the Russians to take ground, it's quite costly. And for the Ukrainians to do the same, it's, again, quite costly. And I think that's what you're seeing. It's a grind because both combatants have figured out.
Entrenched.
Well, they've entrenched, but they've also figured out the technologies needed to advantage them in whatever sort of.
But you'd think
tactical mission they
they
find
would just
themselves
have like air superiority, like over Ukraine.
Ukraine is a large country, though.
Yeah.
So do you remember
Huge, yeah.
Ukraine is the largest country in Europe by landmass.
Yeah.
It's no small peripheral state. So I think it's hard for both sides.
It's also very hard to build an air force under fire. I think we sort of think about it quite casually in the United States because we just enjoy this large air force. We sort of forget the amount of work that goes into building that air force, equipping that air force, getting the human resources to run that air force. Egypt had a problem with this in the 50s. They were trying to sort of build their air force from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Their leadership decided to commit to buying a bunch of French Mirages. The Mirages started arriving.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And then they don't have the pilots to man them.
Mm.
And they realize, actually, you need a special kind of person to fly a plane. They need to be able to speak English, probably. They need to be able to do a significant amount of math. They probably need to be a science and technology oriented person.
All right, I'll do it.
Yeah, you could do it.
I'll fly the plane.
Can I actually add one other potential reason? I don't know if you agree with it or not, but I also think, there were a lot of questions about why Russia couldn't take control of Ukrainian skies in the beginning of the war, to the extent that a lot of people expected it to. I wonder if some of it has to do with Russia holding back some of its resources in case of a potential war with NATO.
I always read that. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. I always read their inability to establish their superiority over Ukraine as a function of their inability to operate jointly.
Okay.
Interesting.
And the limitations of their collection systems about where the sort of the assets were, lack of precision strike, all that stuff sort of connects together to make it more and more difficult for the Russians to establish that air superiority.
All right, so how do you guys think it ends then?
Well,
obviously, probability-wise, obviously no one knows how it ends, but what do you guys, scenario planning, think tank stuff?
Potential frozen conflict scenario of some sort.
What do you
Frozen.
mean?
Frozen. So, Russia, when you think Russia is a master at managing frozen conflicts, if you look at the post-Soviet space, there's several, which means there are three major ones. One in the Gorno-Karabakh in Armenia, another in Moldova, in Transnistria. This might be something else on a much bigger scale, meaning that fighting ends in some way, but it's never fully resolved. In other words, the actual root of the conflict is not resolved. And what that means is the conflict simmers.
Yeah.
And it's never really, no conflict is ever truly frozen, really. And you'll see periodic flare-ups, and that could potentially lead to another war years down the road.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's just perpetual.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. Yeah, the idea of a clean peace agreement where both parties sort of put things down and don't return to a state of war within 20 years, I mean, it happens, but it's not a sort of an approach that advantages Russia.
Do you think this is just like in their nature of their people? Like they're just like, they love perpetual like war and stuff?
Well, Russia doesn't know where its borders are.
Yeah.
It's a historic, and remember, when we started talking, you asked earlier about geography, and I said geography is an important factor, but not the only one. In my view, at least, there's also an ideological component to that, and Russia in particular is a country that started at its origin as an empire that saw its citizens as a resource for war, and it is still that country to this day.
So it is a kind of genetic.
Or at least cultural.
Well, yeah, it's cultural. I don't think it's genetic.
Okay. They're not
predisposed to create frozen conflicts. I don't think. That's anywhere in the gene code.
How do you know, bro?
That's true. I do.
We're mapping the genome now.
Yeah, we could figure it out. Like, this is the frozen conflict segment.
It's like the invasion gene.
Mm-hmm.
Like they always want to take more territory. Because honestly, they're taking territory now is like kind of cringe. Like who cares about borders anymore?
Yeah.
Whatever.
There was
except for Russians.
I would love for you to tell that to Putin's face, just the way you did just now. That would bring me a lot of joy.
Yeah, dude, taking borders is
taking borders is cringe, bro.
Yeah, because you do way better stuff. Like it's about money. Like I guess maybe they want more land to have more money. I guess.
I don't know if it's quite like that. The sort of Russian vision for where its borders lie and what its interests are globally. It's almost, I mean, you can sort of boil it down in Putin's headspace, but across the government, across the people of Russia, I mean, there's wide variance in opinion.
Yes. Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, so like it's very they're just kind of annoying. Like, what does China think about it? They're like, oh, we got Russia over here just doing some annoying shit, going to start a nuclear war.
China and Iran. What's interesting to me is that the Ukrainian war. The war against Ukraine, Russia's war against Ukraine, has really incentivized a series of relationships which we saw as possible before the war kicked off, but which have now, the Russians have been doing a great job cementing. So first and foremost, the interconnected nature of the Russian defense industry with China and China's assistance to Russia in skirting, European and the United States sanctions. I mean, it's really been incredible. And then, of course, Iran's sort of presence as first as a UAV producer for Russia. Russia, of course, is copying the technology and rolling it out on its own. And essentially, we're at the point where if the Russian defense industry continues to grow like it is growing, and it continues to produce Goran 2s and 3s and other sort of loitering munitions at the pace that it is currently doing so.
Lancets and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you could easily see a situation in which there's some negotiated settlement to the conflict. And that Russian defense industry is not going away. It was a huge sector of the Russian economy before the war, and it will likely return to being a huge sector after the war. And these companies are going to be hungry to find new markets for their products.
So you're saying being a U.S. defense contractor is a good thing?
Well,
business.
I think it's a good thing, but I also think there's going to be a series. So we've been talking a lot on, you've been talking on your show quite a bit about sort of this idea, the rise of the drone and the threats posed by drones. But I think a cessation of the conflict in Ukraine is going to, essentially throw gasoline on an already very hot fire.
Oh, damn.
And we're and you could easily foresee, a Russia that is selling Goran 2s and 3s to all kinds of countries that you would never associate with having a precision strike capability. They have to sell it to someone, right? They got to keep the factories running. And, the Russian defense industry is very, very good at selling their products. Yeah. They work hand in glove with the Russian foreign ministries. They've got, business reps that travel to places that Westerners sometimes fear to tread. And they'll make relationships without regard for human rights concerns. End user monitoring is completely foreign to them.
That's right.
And so, I don't think we think about this as a likelihood, but, it's possible that an Al-Shabaab or another terrorist organization or an organization that has pledged fealty to Russia and that is outside of the state and in a developing country can fly a drone 500 kilometers and land it on a point. We just don't think about that capability as being available to sort of low-end militaries, but it will be.
And just to add to what Matt is saying, Russia's entire economy is now geared towards war at the expense of other industries. But it's important because if you want to think long-term, what Russia is doing is they're innovating. The way it's almost like they cannot afford peace. If everything in your country is geared towards war, you literally cannot afford peace. So there's nothing else for Russia to do but continue selling weapons. And what Matt is saying is that they would be more advanced than what Russia.
And
is
so, they don't have like an off ramp here.
Russians don't do off ramps. No, that's a
that's in the gene. That's in the genes. Yeah. Okay.
Russian leadership does not do off ramps. That's a very Western question to ask in a war negotiation.
So then, so then back to Syria. So like now they're making all these new weapons. They're innovating. Is that's sending it to Syria now too? Like all these new weapons? Or no?
Not
I think it remains to be seen. The change in government in Syria is providing a window for Western governments to get involved in shaping what the eventual outcome will be in the governing solution to Syria. I hope.
Well,
I don't.
Let's talk about. Let's go to the expert on this.
By all means.
What is going to happen in Syria? Yeah.
What is going to happen in Syria? Well, I think the jury's still out, but I think with Assad gone, Syria has a real chance in developing turning into a better, more stable country, and therefore potentially more stable, secure Middle East. I don't think anyone should expect Syria to turn into a Western-style democracy. That's an unrealistic expectation. The goals should be elsewhere. The question, to your question specifically about Russians, right now they're not in the best position. They're not fully out of Syria, but they were significantly downgraded. However, most of Syria's military hardware is still primarily Soviet or Russian based. Remember, the Assad family had over 54 years of dependence on first the Soviet Union and then Russia. So if nobody else takes up that space, that creates a potential opening for Russia. And I think what Matt's trying to say, that if it's important for other actors to step in so that Russia doesn't take up that space.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a window here where we can influence the outcome.
Other people need to step in, like the West or NATO?
To the extent that the current government allows us to get involved and to set up our embassy again and engage with the government in a way that isn't entirely punitive, I think that's a good thing, and I think we should do it. Of course, we'll have to play it by ear. If the government turns in such a way that it's sort unacceptable to the West to continue to remain engaged, we have Taliban 2.0. I think we probably change our minds.
Anna, you mentioned war with NATO as a potential, one of your ideas potentially of why. And wouldn't NATO just crush Russia?
Russia would not want to fight NATO because, yes, NATO would crush Russia, but they have to. I think just from a planning purposes, they have to
plan for this.
Plan for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the Germans. What are the Germans up to these days? They don't like any of this.
Well, I think we also.
The Germans are going to start World War III,
It would crush.
They started the first two.
The issue is not so much that would NATO win. I think ultimately they would be the victor. I think the question is, what damage can Russia do, and if it has sort of limited objectives, can it achieve those objectives and then sue for peace, or just continue to hold? And I make a NATO offensive much more costly than it might otherwise be. So I think the question comes down to it's not, can NATO deter Russia? I think it could. The question is, what are the mix of capabilities that NATO needs to have to prevent sort of a fait accompli scenario?
And also, again, if we talk about the nature of warfare, what constitutes an attack? And what Russia is very good at is playing at the margins of that definition.
Yeah.
They're not going to, there's not going to be a mass-scale invasion of Germany. That's not going to happen. But even within NATO, there's been for years debate, for example, what constitutes an attack? Is a cyber attack considered an attack on a country, and is that an attack?
Yeah.
Would it require to invoke Article 5 of the NATO Charter?
No one's invading Germany. Germany's fucking crazy. Those guys will fuck you up. Are you kidding me? Like,
Well,
no one's taking Germany.
I think
That's a
that
guarantee.
the interesting thing, I was looking at this the other night. When Russia was invaded by Germany, how many troops did Germany use?
Russia was
It was like I think 3 million.
Did you watch Enemy at the Gates? I love that movie.
Well, just an enormous amount of manpower is required to seize, modern European capitals, and the Russians were able to muster to invade Ukraine something like 120 to 150, depending upon what numbers you take. That is nowhere. That is Russia at max in that moment.
Yeah,
that's the max ready force they could flex, I'm sure. And the question you have to ask yourself is like, could they do that? Could they, use 120 to 150,000, maximally ready forces to take any other parts of Europe? And I'm skeptical. I mean, I'm really skeptical that they could take and hold serious ground and really threaten Europe. What they can threaten is small pieces of Europe. They can play at the margins. They can grab a little terrain, a little maybe an island or two that's important to them. Take
Estonia or something.
Not all of it. Estonians will fight.
They're fucking crazy too. They don't.
Yeah, and prepared.
And prepared, yes.
Yeah,
they are prepared.
But I also would say, the other issue with Russia is that I think their ambition far exceeds their capabilities.
Mm.
And
wow, Putin heard you say that. You're canceled now in Russia. That's fucked up. They're mad about that. That's a clip right there.
That really hurts my feelings.
I want that. That's the soundbite of this whole show.
Putin may be mad with you.
Their ambition exceeds their capabilities. Quote. That's perfect. I think we got it. Then we're good.
Okay, are we done now?
No, it does.
We're having too much fun now.
Their ambition exceeds their capabilities, and I think that's quite accurate. They have global ambitions.
Yeah.
They want to influence in every part of the world.
Yeah.
But yet they are by GDP, equivalent to Spain.
It's really, really sad for them.
I mean, but yet, they're not a major producer of any sort of world-leading technologies.
And Spain doesn't even try to do GDP, so that's pretty crazy. Like Spain, they're just sleeping all the time, bro. They're siestas and shit.
I used to have a guy who would talk about, this is when we were talking about North Korea, and this is like back during the first Trump administration's sort of heightened concerns about a more aggressive. Well, they were sort of working on a sort of how do we fix the North Korea problem sort of set of foreign policies.
Yeah.
And I had a guy in my office who just used to like every day he'd bring this up. He's like, yeah, if you look at the GDP of North Korea, it's equivalent to Birmingham, Alabama. And it's like, not saying anything bad about Birmingham, Alabama. It's a great town. But it just goes to show how little industrial capacity the North Koreans have. And I think, the same applies in the case of Russia. It's not it's part of the G8 from time to time, depending upon the numbers in that given year. But it's if you look at the technologies that it's pushing out, it's really not at the front of anyone's.
This goes back to what you're saying, though. Like now they're building up their war base. Like this is their new economy. Like this is what they're doing. Like this is maybe that's why they're.
Let's not forget oil.
They have oil,
right.
natural gas,
and oil, natural gas.
Yeah, energy and weapons, basically.
Yeah.
So now they're like kind of addicted to it.
I actually will say, before Russia's invasion of Ukraine, what most people didn't know is that Russia was doing quite well in the wheat industry. That's actually one concrete thing that Russia was able to do in terms of breaking away from that dependence on oil and gas. But I don't think that's a factor anymore.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I mean, to speak further, you mentioned the wheat, Putin's leveraging of the BRICS group as well. I mean, that's part of the ambition. The ambition there is to replace sort of the Washington consensus and the Western-driven global economy.
Yeah.
It's to de-dollarize. Right. It's to unseat the West from their position of sort of global dominance.
Well, I mean, that obviously, like with our rising debts and stuff, maybe they get there. I don't know. It's going to be tough, though.
I think the BRICS is actually the sleeper threat to U.S. national security. Like, if they're successful at de-dollarizing
that's a hot take.
Parts of the world.
Yeah, hot take. I like that.
I do. I think it's a sleeper threat.
This is a hot take podcast.
Well, and I think that we are doing things that are compelling all of the BRICS countries and sort of the non-BRICS members of BRICS to pull themselves off of sort of a Western-aligned economic axis. So, for example, this conversation about using seized Russian assets to give to the Ukrainians. I sort of love the idea from a warfighting perspective, but it's an awful idea in terms of setting precedent. So what you're telling all of these smaller countries is that you can't actually have a sort of an independent foreign policy apart from, Western Western views.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous because they'll seize your money, they'll hold your money up in banks, they'll give it to your enemies. So to me, that's we ought to be very, very careful with some of these. It's become very, very popular to sanction countries and entities. And I think, if we're really taking a hard look at our sanctions regimes over the last 5 years, I think we're going to find that a lot of them didn't do the things that we wanted them to do, or that, the folks that we have sanctioned were prepared for those sanctions and have just, sort of found ways around them. I mean, the Russian economy, despite being somewhat skewed by sanctions, is still humming. Right. So we need to be careful with some of these tools that we have created because it is sending the wrong messages to a lot of smaller, developing countries about their foreign policy and what they can do, and it's incentivizing them to go towards.
Are
BRICS.
you saying that our policy, we don't think about like second order consequences? I guess, or no way.
I think it feels good from a domestic policy perspective to sanction people that the American people don't like or issues that the American people feel passionate about, but I don't think we necessarily think through all the second and third order effects.
So actually, this is a good way to go back to your earlier question. Why didn't Russia just steamroll Ukraine?
Yeah.
What Matt is saying is really important with BRICS being as a potential threat. Much of the non-liberal world does not buy the story on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Mm-hmm. We couldn't isolate Russia globally. So the answer to your question, another answer, why couldn't Russia steamroll Ukraine? We could not isolate Russia globally. Mm. And why couldn't we isolate Russia globally? A big part of the answer is that because only liberal democracies supported isolation of Russia. The rest of the world very much buys into the Kremlin narrative on the war, and they continue to trade with Russia.
And this is ultimately the problem, that after the war is settled, it suddenly becomes okay and somewhat lower risk to engage with Russia. These countries can now, openly trade with Russia. They can establish new agreements with Russia without fearing additional Western sanctions or sort of, upset diplomats.
Yes. Well, and also sanctions over the years became a substitute for policy. Sanctions in and of themselves they're a useful tool, but if it's only one tool within a bigger strategy, we haven't really put forth a clear strategy towards Russia.
Yeah.
Sanctions were easy because we don't need to get our hands dirty. That's why it's such a popular tool. That's why the moment something happens, we just say do more sanctions, but that's not a real solution.
I like the word sanction. What's the etymology of sanction? Like sanctimonious? Or what is the? Let's look that. I want to see the etymology. Jack, don't
Jack.
question me, Jack. I demand to see the etymology. I want to sanction people. I think ACS should start sanctioning people. There we go. Nice. Gotta look this up. Oh, nice. Here we go. Yeah, I didn't take Latin.
An act of making sacred.
Oh, nice. Here we go. And yeah, that's a good word. Ecclesiastical decrees and laws. I like this. All right. That's good. Quick aside. I had to check that out. By the way, sorry if I'm yawning a little bit. I went out last night pretty late, so I'm actually not bored. I just was like, I've just been a little tired,
Fair enough.
As life of an entrepreneur, always go, go, go. Mm-hmm. Work hard, play hard. Obviously, you got it. You know what I'm talking about. Let's switch gears for a second. How's the startup going, bro?
Oh, it's going great. We signed the chair of the National Press Foundation.
Yeah.
We've got a full head of steam in our raise. We're doing a raise right now. And I think we are prepared to start building our MVP in late August for essentially a news platform that allows users to interact with the news, to bet on the news, to predict the outcome of the news that they are reading about.
This is like Polymarket for news?
It's Polymarket for news, but it's also connected to an investigative platform for journalists to replace.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now.
So it's not just like Substack where you get to show up and publish. You also get to leverage the resources of a virtual newsroom to edit stories, to do...
We talked about this, and I remember now. Mm-hmm. And everyone should go back and listen to your episode. What number was that? 5, 4, 6? Early episode.
Single digit. I should get like an NFT or something for that.
A commemorative plaque.
Commemorative plaque. Yes, you were the first 10 on the it doesn't even
Okay,
exist
I remember
anymore.
now though the drone
Drone
wars.
Wars.
Yeah, the name was stolen from me.
by Dan there. Yeah.
Fucking Dan. We were born in the same year though, so he's still my friend. I talk about that a lot. 1986 kids.
Oh, okay.
But, people that were born in 86, I have a special affinity for.
Were you born in 86?
No.
Oh, well, I still have an affinity for you too,
Thank you.
and you.
It's still the
I was
same
an 82.
decade.
I'm a Libra, so I like
Yeah.
everyone.
I'm a Gemini.
Oh, okay, yeah. Are the Russians big into astrology like me?
Probably
They
a
do have
little-
some interesting sort of spiritualist
Yes.
things.
Nice.
What was that movie that came out? I want to say in like 2001, and it was based on a successful series of books.
Okay.
Oh God. And it's essentially like there's sort of dueling. It's like the Russian version of Highlander.
Okay.
Where there's sort of like
There can be only one. Yeah.
dueling sort of good and evil forces, and sort of the plane that humans live on is their battleground.
Okay.
This is very, very well known. I can't believe I can't remember it. That this will not make it into the podcast. Please, Jack.
No, it's making it. Pull it up. This is what the listeners.
Pull this up. So it came
Yeah.
out in like 2000 to 2004, and
Everything makes it in.
I
That's what
guarantee you when you see this, you'll remember it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just don't remember it right now.
it was maybe the most
Yeah, what should he
famous
search?
Russian foreign language film in that.
What should he search?
Russian film?
Yeah, Russian. Just put it in the search bar. This is like
You just tell me what to type. I'll check.
2000 to 2004.
Okay.
About good versus evil set in Moscow.
Sounds like Master
Oh,
Margarita,
we should ask Chat
honestly.
I should
GPT.
ask chat.
Chat will know.
Night Watch.
Okay,
Boom.
Google
Okay.
knew. Good, Google got it.
Yes.
It's a 6.4.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
6. I have a rule on IMDb. I don't know if you guys have this rule, but if it doesn't, so for movies, it has to have over a 7, and then it's probably pretty good on IMDb. And then for shows, over a 9, because the shows have to have a higher standard. But yeah, I think that's important.
This was based on the book.
I think that's important. Speaking of films, by the way, I'm producing a film about Ukrainian dancers. It actually is premiering next week.
Really?
Yeah, so I'll send you some footage. One of the other producers, Misty Copeland, the ballerina. So they call them dancers though, because Russians are ballerinas and Ukraine's trying to rebel. They don't want to say ballerinas, but they're all ballerinas basically. Okay. Anyway, it follows them through the war and losing all their husbands on the front lines and stuff. It's very sad. But I'm a producer on that. Yeah, I felt like it would be a good piece of content.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'll send you a link. You can tell me what you think of it.
Sure.
I'll tell you, and then I'll tell the director if he was good or not. You'll probably have a good opinion on it, see if it's like accurate and stuff. But yeah, so it's a documentary. I'm into media, as you can tell by the podcast. Like I'm like a tech CEO, but I want to be a media person. I think it'd be way more fun. Like I'm always like working on product and raising money and doing engineering, and I'm like, product, come on. I'll just do like media, produce my thoughts.
It is fun.
Yeah.
There's it's a uniquely joyful experience.
You might make
to
more money in
something for
product,
someone
though.
else. Yeah.
Maybe, I like the media side, but maybe product's probably better business. I'm not sure. But media is more fun for me.
I think it's more
Yeah.
predictable.
I want to move to West Hollywood. You guys want to come?
Leave Old Town Alexandria
I mean,
to go to West Hollywood.
Delray, Old Town, this is a nice area. I do like it. But yeah, it's not like the most exciting.
Yes.
It's very slow here.
I would say so.
Chill.
I would say so, particularly at this period of
I
time.
don't know, where do you live in DC? Are you?
I live in Bethesda.
Oh, that's right. You said Bethesda. Okay. Yeah. What's it like up there?
It's quiet.
Yeah. Is it comparable to Delray here?
It's a DC suburb,
It's
right?
a DC suburb. I mean, it's where a lot of people live.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been there a little bit. I just haven't been to this.
Where are you from originally?
Like Amish country. Basically.
Oh, okay.
Like farmland, PA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big Pennsylvania. Can't you tell? Just like
I have a very
Pennsylvania.
good friend who is from that part of Pennsylvania as well.
Yeah.
I love it out there.
I had a small town, like 2,500 people. It's called Stewartstown. It's very small. Yeah. Yeah, it's like in the middle of cornfields and stuff. And now look at me doing a podcast with you two.
You've really hit the big time.
Wow. Yeah, and I got Jack here.
Literal dozens of viewers for this.
Whoa.
I'm
First
sorry.
of all, thousands, bro.
Sorry.
Thousands.
Yeah, thousands.
Yeah, easily thousands.
Hey, I think the first one I did was pretty well received. I think we got a pretty good viewer count on that.
20 or something.
Dude, you texted me and you were like, bro, this short just blew up.
And
And
then
it
we
was
did
like
have- yeah,
7,000. I'm like, what could people find interesting about
No,
this?
we had one. You had one of the best performing shorts.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a unique like knowledge set that we don't really have on here. Most of the people that come on are like tech CEO, tech
Yeah.
talking about their products and stuff. But you guys have like a more like a specific knowledge that our viewers really don't hear a lot. So this performs well usually.
One of the things that we were surprised about is that when we produced the article, basically talking about.
Wait, let's talk about the article. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the article. Yeah.
So I think we had some kind of. And this is at Washington Institute.
Oh, yeah, that was.
was a guest
but
speaker
I don't know if we can air that though. That was
no.
more off the record.
Oh, it's
Oh,
off the
sorry.
record.
Yeah.
What is?
Sure. We did something
just
together,
beep that
and,
out.
then,
Beep,
and then we
beep.
realized that
Yeah.
I think in our various comments that we had fodder for a paper.
Yes.
And the crux of the paper was basically what happens if peace breaks out. What happens to the Middle East, to North Africa, to Sub-Saharan Africa, as far as Russian outreach to these places, and some of the themes that Anna mentioned, about much of the rest of the world is sort of waiting for the war to end, to renew their relationship with Russia, I think still holds true. And when it does so, what will the relationship with Russia bring to those countries? And in my view, being a military analyst by background and training, it's a completely revitalized Russian defense industry. It's able to churn out at scale some of the most advanced weapons that we're currently seeing in the battlefield today. And the price point of those weapon systems are well within reach of smaller, sort of less capable militaries in a lot of these sort of areas that are already, quite tense, that are already experiencing insecurity or
So
a
you're
vacuum in
thinking
governance.
other conflicts will break out.
I think it will provide a sort of impetus to those conflicts, similar to swapping out everyone's bolt action rifle with an AK-47.
Well, so what Matt was saying earlier about how Russia sells arms is important, and Russia will not necessarily start conflicts, but once there is a conflict, they can help perpetuate it. And one of the reasons is because Russia doesn't prohibit secondary arms sales. So a lot of people want to buy Russian weapons. One of the many reasons why someone want to buy a Russian weapon is because if you're like, say, a corrupt general somewhere in Egypt, you're going to want to buy Russian weapons because you can sell them somewhere else, and that's how conflict proliferates.
I mean, what happens to
Interesting.
like sort of the simmering Ethiopian and Egyptian tensions if Egypt enters into co-production for Iran 2 or 3, right? We are seeing thousands of one-way attack munitions used in a month against Ukraine. What happens when a country decides to go to war and builds its stock of these munitions and unleashes them in a 1 to 2 week period? The idea of 5,000 is quaint. 20,000, 30,000. And then what do you do in that kind of scenario?
Well, you shoot them all down with my products. What do you think this
you
is?
better have enough. You better have enough.
We got plenty, bro.
Yeah.
It's a big ad for me.
There you go.
This is
right?
sponsored by Allen Control Systems.
ACS, producing the bullfrog.
Yeah.
Coming to you in 2026.
Well, we hope.
Yeah, right?
It should be this year. Fucking
I thought you were going to have it in here.
Bro.
I was looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, my co-founder's taking his sweet ass time. It's like, dude,
edit that part out.
No, I just, I just told him, like, can't you just give me a revolutionary product that everyone wants to buy instantly? Like, how hard is that? Just like give me what I need to make a lot of money. Like, is it really that hard to build something no one's ever built
There's
before?
always more to it. There's always more to it.
There is so much to it. It's so tiring. I mean, I have like that. I look tired. I mean, yeah, because I am tired.
Certainly.
Startups, bro.
Yeah.
This is it for me. End of the line. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, you got it. You got it.
Yeah.
So, so switching gears, let's talk a little bit about Russian pop culture for a second.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
How is their pop culture scene? Oh, shit, we have someone entered the building here.
It's Clay.
Oh, it's Clay. Okay. That's our head of government relations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he helps with our lobbying efforts.
Great.
Yeah, he used to work for Katie Britt, the senator.
Okay.
Yeah, big Republican. Yeah.
Is he a busy man?
He better be.
Yeah.
Fuck, I hope he's making us some money.
I was looking through the budget for counter UES
Oh, yeah.
money, and I just It's incredible the amount of money that the Department of Defense is spending on counter.
I know. I just had a meeting this morning with like the Coast Guard. They just got like a ton of money in the OBBB. What is it? Big Beautiful Bill. Yeah. I always forget. OBBB. Yeah. BBB.
Yeah.
I get confused because like the Build Back Better. Like Biden had like.
Yeah.
Why are they all doing BBB? Like.
I would not have made that connection.
Yeah, build BBB.
Yeah.
It's like really, come on.
And there's the Better Business Bureau.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking. Actually,
triple
Better
Bs.
Business Bureau,
yeah. And there's triple B rated
B
mortgage
securities
or
or
something.
whatever.
Putting the O in front of it now. So it's
B's,
like
triple B's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched Big Short again recently when you got the B's and the triple B's. You know.
Great book, great movie.
Well, Ryan Gosling's so hot. I mean, just straight up. You guys know, you wouldn't agree, right?
Well, you're a Navy man, so
Yeah.
maybe that's a part of it.
First of all, anything Ryan Gosling's in, we're all watching. You can't deny it. I won't even. Don't like act all coy.
I love his that character in The Big Short that he plays it's so good. I just every single scene where that character comes in, it's
okay.
like
So in that
wonderful.
movie, you know, when the first time he pitches Steve Carell, and there's like he's got the blocks, so he's standing at the window, and they come into their own office, and he's like, "Have a seat." I swear to God, I shit you not, I did this to a venture capitalist. I'm not kidding, because they always so when you go and pitch in San Francisco, they always try to power play you.
You have so just to set the scene, he has an interesting sort of approach to pitching VCs that I've not heard this from anyone else.
Okay.
I've talked to many.
Wait,
I've
what's
never
my
heard,
approach?
It's a level of aggressiveness
Oh,
that is. It's like he turns the dial to 11, and you're like, I didn't think it would go that far.
I go full
But it
unhinged.
goes to 11.
It goes full I'm unhinged.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they want to like back like a crazy person, you know.
So you could actually do quite well with the Russians then.
Yeah, no, I think I could. I mean, I was good over there. I mean, I was skating in Gorky Park and I was hanging out with like Tatiana and whatever. And it was awesome. The Russians are, I mean, they're beautiful women. Obviously, that's true. That's just a fact. Yeah, I loved it over there. The park was immense. Okay, wait, I digress because we're talking about fundraising.
Yes, my goodness.
You know Gorky Park though.
I do know Gorky Park.
Yeah, see, I know my shit.
I know several parks. Yes.
You know the one park I know. I have a couple other Russians. We go back to my Russian story. I have a lot of good ones. But so yeah, fundraising. So the scene, Ryan Gosling, it's a type of seat. So they always try to power play you because like you come into their offices and these are like some of the biggest venture firms in the world, and they're like staff or like their admin will be like, all right, just wait in this room, and they just shove you into like a big conference room and they just leave you there for like minutes, like 20 minutes sometimes. Usually it's like 10. So you're just sitting there. What the hell? It's like they're trying to big league me here. They're late to their own meeting. So anyway, so this time I turned the tables. I stood up like Ryan Gosling and stared out the window. And when they came in, I go, have a seat. I did it. I did the Big Short thing. It was awesome.
What did they do?
They sat. Dude, people want to be commanded. They do. They really do. Like if you just be really assertive, and it's all an act for me because I'm actually like inside like incredibly scared. But it's just totally
Probably shouldn't admit to that.
No, it's fine. I don't care.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, frightened rabbit.
You raised enough money to.
We have raised like $43 million.
Yes,
yeah. I'm a professional
Congratulations.
fundraiser. Yeah, well, we're raising more, obviously. We're always, founders, we're always raising. I don't think I'm never not raising because I believe in my core that I'm the best with the capital. Like if you didn't believe you were the best entrepreneur in the world, why would you raise? Because I believe I can deploy it more efficiently than any other entrepreneur. So I should get more. That's like my core belief.
Okay.
Like it would be better to put $100 million with me than with some other entrepreneur. Because I'm going to grow, I'm going to make that money grow more than the other ones. But if you didn't fundamentally believe that, then why are you even doing this? You know, like every dollar that goes to you should just go to me. Because in my mind, I've convinced myself of that. Whether that's true or not remains to be seen. But I do believe that. Yeah.
Good. That's probably needed.
It might be. It's like a level of delusion that you can't teach. You know.
Yeah. Just.
Delusion. It's actually a great line. I think you should use.
Yeah, it is. You can't teach that shit.
Yeah. I've hypnotized myself into thinking I'm the best.
No.
Tell me more about this.
No, that's actually the key. I really do mean this. Like you have to like toe the line between like delusions of grandeur and like being like pessimistic that your business is going under. Like you have to do both.
Well, military technology is such a tough industry.
Oh,
it's extreme. And I think, what's interesting to me in the last 5 years is how many new market entrants sort of the miltech space has seen.
Yeah.
Because previously it was considered to be like one of the hardest markets to break into. The ability to develop a product and then sell that product, usually to the government, you know, the success rate is awful.
Oh yeah, totally.
And the you know, the amount of capital you have to put in before you get to be able to appreciate a completely novel product, I mean, it's tremendous.
It's horrible.
It's tremendous.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's not set up for in new startups. No.
And you know, there's been a lot of money spent, and you know this, over the last 5 years by the Department of Defense focused on innovation.
Yeah,
building out these like, innovation programs and identifying like tick brigades in the Army.
Oh yeah. I know we're trying to do stuff with the tick brigades.
Well, I mean, it's a great idea.
It's slow going though.
It's slow going, and the issue is you sort of look at, well, okay, we've been doing innovation now for about 4 years. Let's look at the track record. What small businesses started a relationship with the Department of Defense to build something?
Yeah, barely.
And where do they stand now?
Yeah,
I think most of them either sort of failed out, didn't build the thing they wanted to build, built it, and it bankrupted them to build it.
Yeah.
Or they sort of developed a bunch of IP, and because the system is prejudiced against new market entrants, just got bought up by a prime.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why you're looking at
part of the Borg
I mean, you're looking at the backup plan right here, the media empire. My product, you know, if I can't get successful, I've got this. And then probably a job at your think tank. As you can tell, I'm a good thinker, right? I'm like one of the preeminent thinkers in defense.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
I think about it a lot.
I would love to see that. There's some people in her think tank I would love for you to meet.
I'm not going to say it.
I'll tell him, I'll be like, I'll go every day. I'll tell him I thought about it last night. I thought. Share those thoughts. Yeah,
I'd like to be in on that meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you get to tell Putin also that you know, invading other countries is whack, bro.
Yeah,
I want to be on that
cringe.
as well. It's cringe.
So no, I mean, okay. Back to the Russia stuff. So like, one of the things we did when we were in Moscow is we went and found in Moscow a Russian polar bear club. We used Google Translate back in the day. That we like went way outside the city limits. So we took a bus out in the middle of nowhere. We walked through this suburb. First of all, walking through the suburb with the black guy and the gay guy. The black guy, obviously just straight black, but the gay guy had a mohawk.
Does this make it into the podcast?
We haven't really decided.
First of all, why wouldn't it? It's awesome.
You just have to be a little, I don't know, this is, just be a little careful.
Well, so anyway, so then this guy in like full Russian combat boots comes out of his, like, we're in this like neighborhood, and like, it's really weird. It's eerie because the walls are super high.
Yeah.
And like around like houses, like what I don't know, it's like defensive. It's like it's weird.
It's
suburb.
the same way outside of Kyiv too.
So then we're walking through and we're looking for this polar bear club, and then we're walking through the forest, and then there's like this house, and this guy with full combat gear comes out to get his mail, and he just comes down the driveway, and he's a really big Russian man, scary looking, and he just sees the three of us, and he just stops and he like cocks his head. He's like, "What the fuck?" And he just like grabs the paper and just turns around and walks back. And
he's like, I don't want any part of this.
Absolutely confused.
Well, it's much better than the alternative.
Yeah, for sure. We were frightened. So then we finally find this river, like the Moscow River, and they were all morning. They were chiseling out the ice at this club.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I watched a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
On weekends.
And so I was very scared. So my other two friends, they got naked and jumped in with them. Like they did the whole plunge, and I watched all the gear, like to make sure that no one saw, because I was too afraid to jump in the river. And I'm sad about it as a missed opportunity, though. I feel like that would have been
It would have been pretty cold.
I know.
You may, just letting you know, you may not have enjoyed it.
So I went to a banya for the first time in Kyiv last year.
You know what a banya is, right?
Yeah. I went to one. Yeah, they're awesome.
They do the hot cold plunge thing.
Yeah.
And there was like two cold pools.
Okay.
One was like, you know, Cape Cod.
Okay.
And the other one was like, you know, Manitoba. It was, and
Nice.
I remember, like, I grew up in Florida. If the water is sub 90 degrees, I'm not that interested in getting in.
Yeah.
So the fact that I sort of willed myself to jump into the cold pool, and I remember like that cold air hitting me and just thinking like you have this like sort of visceral response, like I have to get out of this immediately, and like the adrenaline kicks in. And the adrenaline was like running. I mean, for the entire rest of the time I was there, I was like, when does this become relaxing? Like I can feel my heart just like,
Yeah.
You know.
I'm no expert on this, but actually I read some studies that say there's little medical utility.
I think there is little medical utility.
The banya, and I think that whole sort of like hot cold thing is, if you think that it works,
Maybe.
it works and you'll endure it.
Maybe. So
But
when I
if
was,
you don't think that it works,
Well, yeah.
I don't know. So when I was in kindergarten in Moscow, they did this thing to us. It was mandatory, of course, because it was Russia, so you didn't have a choice. After nap time, they lined all of us up, and they alternated pouring like really hot and really cold water on our feet. It was supposed to make us stronger, but I would get immediately sick afterwards. So I saw absolutely no
So
utility.
dumb, yeah,
doing this.
yeah. Well, I think Russians do a lot of zero utility plays. I think it's like a zero utility culture in many ways, right? I feel like they do a lot of dumb stuff like that.
there was a guy thinking about like Russian culture. So like when I was in college, I remember this guy he was really famous in like weightlifting circles, and now we appreciate a lot of the stuff that he was trying to do. His name was Pavel Tsatsouline. So this idea of kettlebells,
Oh yeah.
he popularized that.
Oh, nice.
The sort of idea of some of these like
Kettlebell swing and
less
stuff.
technologically complex,
Yeah.
exercises where you're just doing multiple
That's cool.
complex exercises together. I don't know. I think that was one of the best things that like the exercise culture and some of the sort of exercise science things that Soviet Union did. Really interesting.
No, actually, exercise was I think one of the better things about
Yeah.
Russia. The idea that you should be physically fit was an important aspect. The hot cold water, though, I think.
There's fewer. There's like
that.
fewer obese people there than here probably. And they just
Well, wasn't a lot of food when I was growing up.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. The banyas though, like, I went to one of those, and I remember these old Russian men were just beating me with like sticks.
The birch, yeah.
Birch. Yeah, they were just whipping, and I was like, I love this so much.
When I was having that happen, I was like, "What is this supposed to be doing? Like, what is
you just
this?
do this and you just let them do it."
And then you sort of ask them, and it's like this weird sort of new age spiritualist nonsense of like it's pulling the impurities out of your skin through your back, and I'm like,
I feel like for a
This is
moment there in the
nonsense.
bathhouse,
I'm just enduring low grade torture.
That's right. Did they have you drink too? Was there alcohol?
Mhm,
involved?
yeah, I feel like the moment in the bathhouse when I thought, maybe we could all get along someday, forever. But, so it's a real equalizer. We're all just in there together.
It's a beautiful dream.
Yeah,
I'd love to get along with the Russians.
I just want, who wouldn't? Peace. Fucking peace.
There was when the war kicked off, when Russia invaded Ukraine, and things were already quite bad at a foreign policy level between the United States and Russia, and they just got worse. I have this thing where I like to look at like 80s television, and I remember finding an old 60 Minutes episode, and this was during the Perestroika period and during the period of warming relations, spearheaded by Reagan with the Soviet Union. This was around this time Reagan was actually traveling to Moscow, and there was some big appearances where he was walking around Red Square and talking to Soviet civilians, and of course everything is staged, but it feels real, at least to American audiences. A reporter, I think it was Charles Kuralt, famous old-timey reporter, like some Soviet guy finds him and harangues him for like 10 minutes about wanting to find his old buddies who were at a prison camp with him in World War II.
Oh shit.
And it's this great story, and if you want a sort of heartwarming moment where you sort of can see how things might work in a better world, go back and watch that 60 Minutes episode. And it follows, essentially, they find the two guys that he wants to find who were in the prison camp with him in World War II. These Americans, and you had the Americans on one side and the Soviets on the other. And what the Americans were doing is they realized the Soviets were getting reduced food rations. And some of them were starving to death. And they were figuring out a way to get them excess food rations to keep them alive. The Soviet guy was a dentist in the camp, and he was like the one spot where the Americans and the Soviets could come together because he was the only dentist, so he provided dental services to the Americans as well. It's just a great story about.
We'll probably have Shayna link it in the show notes. Probably that's our editor.
I just love that episode, and I went back and looked at it, and I was like, you're experiencing all of the tragedy of the moment, right? Watching Russia bomb civilians in Ukraine.
It's horrible.
It's awful, and then you're sort of you see another path.
Yeah.
And you can perhaps fantasize about what could be if certain people weren't in charge.
Well, if he's not in charge, I'm sure there's someone else, right? You probably study this. It's not him. It's just
but that's true. You're
I don't
right.
know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, the idea that Ukraine is not a real country is not Putin's idea. It's prevalent
Mhm.
among Russian elites. But in theory, if you had another person, you could potentially at least put a pause on the war. So if your goal was to pause the war, a new leader would be more like potentially. Actually, could be the other way around. With somebody similar like Narishkin, that could actually be worse.
Yeah, the folks waiting in the wings to take over Russia, largely share Putin's foreign policy views.
Putin is not the most extremist of that bunch. He's actually a more moderate one.
That would be my sense. Like, I don't know. I haven't studied. That's an intuition.
I do wonder the extent to which sort of the folks on the far right in the Russian political spectrum are doing it to give Putin sort of policy wiggle room. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're not really, they don't really believe the things that they're advocating for, but they're advocating to give him the ability to look like the moderate.
Yeah, I think that's quite possible. That's actually that's one possible explanation. The problem is it's hard to tell. And this is what Matt was saying earlier. It's very hard to predict. We just don't.
This is the deep cuts right here. Like, this is where they talk about the things I never would have considered.
Well, I mean, it's like, this is the thing that always sort of irks me about our ability to sort of forecast authoritarian government's instability. Yeah. It's like we're so bad at it.
Well, yeah.
We are so bad at it. And we have collection up the yin yang. We know, where big military formations are moving generally. And, we had plenty of both the, U.S. intelligence establishment, but just the rest of the world had a great sort of front row seat into Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Like, everybody knew it was coming, or at least the forces were ready to make it happen.
Satellites all over the place now, right?
But like Putin's downfall.
See these things?
I mean, even Assad.
Yeah.
The sort of precipitous decline of his power.
God, the satellites. We're looking at Russia at all times.
Are they literally that size?
Well, these are scale models.
Scale models. Okay.
This is the solar panels. I had a guest on that does they launch up on SpaceX and then they put these satellites in space.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What company?
Which one was this? Array Labs. But I've had a bunch of satellite CEOs on. But yeah, we're looking at Russia all the time, like with all these satellites.
Well, and I think a lot of the tools of the intelligence community that were sort of world beating 15 years ago, we're going to very quickly be outmatched by civilian
tech,
capabilities,
for sure.
Civilian tech,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I've talked to all these. I mean, I know what's coming. Yeah, it's the amount of stuff going up on SpaceX launches. Like, it's the whole space is going to be covered with satellites. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
And satellite communications are very hard to jam, especially when you use microsat constellations that dynamically route around nodes that go down. I mean, this idea of, the Russian, this gets back to some of the Russian sort of tactical views on employment of electronic warfare. They just can't do some of those things anymore. And it also means that if you put enough of those constellations up, it means that you have probably unattrited comms during a major warfight.
That's true.
I think that was something that the United States Army always planned to deal with, was what happens if GPS goes down? What happens in a communications denied environment? Well, now it seems like communications, it's going to be so hard to deny communications.
There's so much.
That we can always enjoy some level of communications in austere environments.
So, Anna, what is your latest area of study? A new book coming out, or what do you most focus on recently?
I've looked a lot at Middle Eastern reactions to the war in Ukraine. Hence my earlier point about how we couldn't isolate Russia.
Yeah, so their reaction. Yeah. Give me some of the highlights.
There was a lot of support for the Russian narrative on the war. Trade has gone up with Russia, with UAE in particular, also Turkey, a NATO ally. The other interesting thing is, in the beginning stages of the war, the Biden administration tried to get Saudi Arabia to increase oil production to drive down oil prices, and that's to your earlier question about Russia's resources. They couldn't do that, and this shows you a lot about what a different world we live in now than what we had during the Cold War. If you think about why did the Soviet Union fall, there are many reasons why it fell. There's no one particular explanation, but Saudi Arabia helped us drive down oil prices, and that paid a far. The conventional wisdom says that it was the invasion of Afghanistan that led to the fall of the Soviet Union, but that's actually not true. The fall in oil prices played a big role, and we couldn't do that this time around.
And I think there's tremendous pent-up demand for Russian defense equipment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think there's a lot of sales that haven't gone through in the last 3 years because they were concerned about sanctions. That if peace returns. These countries already have already many of which are culturally inclined towards Russia, will be happy to fill out new orders.
Yeah. Well, I got a big meeting in a bit, but I know down at the Fort Belvoir later today. But before we wrap up, like I know we have some other things to talk about, right? What were some other areas you wanted to cover?
No, I think we covered
a lot.
We
hit
hit
it all.
Yeah, we hit all the key terrain. Yeah.
Wow, without even trying, because I had no idea. But
I was doing a little bit of it.
Okay. You were shaping. So they call it shaping the requirements.
There you go.
Yeah, doing all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is good. I don't think there's anything that needs to be cut. I feel like we stayed very PC,
I'll chat with Jack afterwards.
I mean, you got to remember who makes good television here? Me. It's about the ratings. Ratings are up. Let's go.
That's good.
The ratings are up. When are we coming on again?
Well,
you guys are perennial. We need to come on. Well, certainly after the war is over, you got to come back. That's for sure.
If there's a negotiated settlement,
but if there's some breaking news though, if there's some breaking news, we have to get you back. Like Anna, you were great. You're amazing.
Really? Because you looked kind of bored and confused at the time I was speaking.
Well, I was not bored. No way. That was just because when I told you, I went out last night and I was just it was not that.
So
you
were at the club that David Sachs's thing.
Oh, they're actually. I am joining that.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to join. They've given me a good deal on it. I can't disclose, but I still have to pay them because that's how the rich stay rich.
Sure.
I don't get it for free. Even though
I would think you would get it for free as a.
I know. Even though I'm like his best investment ever.
Right.
But they still make me pay. It's really messed up.
It's a shame.
I know. I told him it was messed up, but he's like, dude, Steve, you can.
I thought you were like the wheeler and dealer.
I know.
I thought you were the person making the tough.
So when
calls.
I get in, you can come as my guest.
Can you Can you do you have leverage on them? Can you?
I'm gonna try to negotiate. So I can't negotiate on price anymore. But I'm going to try to get some other stuff, like extra guests or something like that. Push the guest policy a bit. You know what this is? It's like this bar in Georgetown. It's called the Executive Branch.
I don't know much about it.
It's like a pay-to-play club.
It's a club.
Yeah.
And they're opening it up because...
it's open now.
Well, is it open now?
Yeah, it's open. It's like a Republican hangout. Yeah. Yeah.
Remember Bull Feathers?
Vaguely.
Bull Feathers, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like the rich Republican tech bro version of Bull Feathers.
That's a pretty good. Yeah, that's a clip. That's
Thank you.
A soundbite. Yeah, it's a good.
If they need advertising,
yeah,
I can leave you my contact info.
Nice. Okay. Well, I think it's gonna be high ratings. Matt, Anna, I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having
us.
us.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.